On this edition of Impact, finding food close to home.
Going to a farmer's market and buying directly from the farmer, of course, encourages more community than going to the grocery store once a week and interacting only with the checkout counter person.
Then,
the head and the body is sort of earthy, have an earthy flavor, but I suppose it's an acquired taste.
the real way to eat fried worms. But first, there's a lot of history wrapped up in those little California rolls.
You're not just putting like a piece of fish and rice and pushing it together. You're actually forming it, putting a little bit of yourself into it, and try to present it in an edible way.
Welcome to Impact. I'm Marissa Monroy. People are passionate about food, and we've decided it's time for our own food show. Only, as you might expect on Impact, we've cooked up a few unusual stories. You might think it's delicious, or you may lose your appetite, but you'll definitely learn something new. In our first story, we give you the raw deal on one of the world's finest cuisines.
Have no idea what uni or inagi are? Can't tell the difference between bluefin and big-eye tuna? Japanese sushi chef Susumu Jimbo says no problem. He's the new face of American sushi, and he's passing his knowledge along to anyone who wants to learn.
Don't push too much, top.
Jimbo Sensei, the name his students call him, teaches at the California Sushi Academy. Founded in 1998 by chef and restaurateur Toshi Sugiura, it is the first school of its kind in the United States.
I was trying to open more restaurants, but that time the immigration situation is getting harder and harder. So I couldn't get any chef from Japan. So maybe I should, grow here in the United States.
The academy successfully attracted students, and Sugiura found the chefs he needed. Over the years, however, he says the faces in his classes have reflected a diversity that sushi has never known before.
But when I started, my idea is different. Because so many Caucasians, American people is coming. I mean, people come from all the world. All over the world was really surprised. So now I have to change it. I have to be more like a big open mind. Whatever people is coming, I have to help to, be a successful sushi chef.
Every day, I talk to my students. 3 things. Number 1, keep clean. Number 2 is organize. Number 3, keep humble heart. Only 3 things.
Students from throughout the U.S. and from countries as far as South Africa come to Southern California to learn the fundamental skills of an ancient Japanese cuisine.
Turnover. My way. Okay, you guys have to do my way. Easy. From bottom to top.
The intensive course lasts 12 weeks and costs $5,700.
Take it off.
Born in Korea, Soo Chai spent most of his life in the Midwest. He says that coming to the Sushi Academy marks a potential life change for him. Chai had to leave his family in Minnesota for a few months and quit his 9-to-5 job in the business world so he could come to Los Angeles to train as a sushi chef.
This basically has turned out to be my full-time job in a sense. Coming here at 8:30, classes over at 12:30, and just staying after, practicing, doing this and that, leaving here around 4 o'clock, kind of turned into my day job.
Yeah, you're cutting so good.
Another student, David S Condell, is one of the few who has previous culinary experience. He hails from Ibiza, Spain, and a family that has been in the restaurant business for 3 generations.
I'm going back to Spain next year, and I'm not going to try to compete against people who have been doing for 40, 50 years, whatever, 2 generations, 3 generations, doing the fish.
Travis Oler journeyed from Iowa City and is living in a West Hollywood hostel for the duration of the course. He says the transition to life in LA and his experience at the academy have been a culture shock on 2 levels.
Personally, I thought it would be easier than it is. It's really hard. So I'm dealing with that kind of internal struggle. Like, it's hard to get all the terms right away, you know. Over an extended period of time, of course, they sink in and you can digest them more easily, but I'm just being inundated with Japanese terms and ideas and, you know, sauces and stocks and fish, and it's just ridiculous.
The challenge posed to students like Travis is no wonder, considering that the cuisine has been evolving for more than 2,000 years. In its modern form, sushi comes from one of the oldest techniques used to preserve meat. Rice was packed around the fish, producing amino acids that fermented the meat. The earliest mention of sushi is recorded in a Chinese text written around 2 AD, but the island nation of Japan later proved to be a perfect geographic fit for a cuisine based on fish and rice. By the 1800s, sushi was being prepared and sold by street vendors throughout Osaka and Edo as a quick, affordable meal. In the 1970s, sushi began a journey from the streets of Tokyo to the hills of Hollywood. Celebrities and New York's elite dined in fine restaurants and sought out authentic Japanese haunts to prepare what was then still an exotic treat. The invention of the now ubiquitous California roll was the catalyst for a change in the way Americans ate seafood.
I think it's a great idea, great match for this here in Los Angeles, I mean like California, it's especially Los Angeles, United States. You know, early 1970, one of the guys started to use it for the California avocado. It was a great idea. Even I like it very much. And then it's you know, avocado is when you dip in the soy sauce. It's like a butter.
This American-style sushi, made with cooked crab, avocado, and cucumber, delivered an unfamiliar cuisine to the masses with ingredients that weren't as foreign to their palates. Some 30 years later, though, Segura says that American sushi is still associated with one very unfamiliar characteristic.
I mean, America, they don't have any, you know, culture for the eating raw. Even, you know, beef, you gotta cook, chicken cook. You gotta, you know, all fishes, you use like a cooked way, right? But when we provide for the sushi here in the fish, it's a quality is different. That's why I'm saying you gotta be a knowledge about for the how to prepare for the fish. Cost me $150.
Though sushi is not by definition limited to raw fish, it is undeniably an essential part of its identity, and that, for some diners, brings with it a concern for food safety. All raw food can become contaminated, but harmful organisms are usually killed when the product is cooked. That means seafood served raw in sushi must be purchased from reputable sources, be carefully inspected by a trained eye, and properly handled. The FDA requires seafood that will be served raw to be frozen according to strict protocols. Farm-raised fish are exempt from freezing rules. To an untrained eye, though, it can be impossible to tell a farmed fish, such as salmon, from its wild cousin. Diners should order these breeds only from trusted establishments. The FDA has also exempted big eye, yellowtail, southern and northern bluefin tuna species from the freezing rule. Their migration patterns lead them to spend most of their lives away from shore and in the deepest, coldest parts of the ocean, where they do not typically consume prey that harbor parasites.
Also, you have to know lots of knowledge about the fish, because it's a raw fish. It's very dangerous. You can kill anytime the people. If you're gonna sell for the dead fish, for the poisons or whatever. It's really difficult. So you have to know lots of knowledge about for the sushi.
Certain sushi fish are incredibly dangerous, and a properly trained chef knows that his greatest responsibility is the safety of his customer. For many diners, though, the intimidation lies not in the fish. If you're all thumbs with a set of chopsticks, or consider sushi to be a pretentious cultural phenomenon, you may be comforted to learn that this ancient Japanese cuisine is experiencing a return to its humble roots. Today, you can find these bite-sized meals everywhere from the local supermarket to low-cost, fast food-style restaurants.
But some of the sushi like a fast food and pack the container, I think this is okay. You know why? Even fast food, it's so easy to like some of the people, the American people, that doesn't matter, any country peoples, it's so worried about it, to eat sushi. So I don't want to go to the sushi restaurant. It looks so mean. Always sushi chef like, ugh. So scary. I don't go. I don't want to go to the sushi restaurant. It's okay. So you can try. Just try from the sushi. Eating sushi. I'm not gonna eat sushi. Okay. I bought one of the pack for like lunch box. Just eat it. This is sushi. It looks really different, but it's okay. Oh, that is sushi. Oh, the rice tastes flavor, vinegar flavor. Oh, I didn't know that. Wow, wasabi. Oh, wasabi is that can taste it. It's okay. Just knock door. Right? Just knock door. It's okay. After that, if someone wants, oh, I want to try on a real taste sushi. After that, go to the sushi restaurant.
The grocery store door has quickly become the one through which many sushi lovers have walked into a new cultural experience that tends to come with a few surprises. For example, sushi's limits are restricted by just one fundamental ingredient, vinegared rice. To a connoisseur, even the most select cut of fish cannot save a bad batch of rice. It is said that in traditional Japanese sushi culture, an apprentice chef may work with rice for years before ever touching a knife. The shiny little grains must be rinsed multiple times, soaked, cooked in just the right amount of water, and then combined with the chef's own combination of vinegar, salt, sugar, and perhaps even a secret house ingredient.
It's so old, sushi, and it's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, it's kind of like a martial art, you know. There's very distinct ways of doing everything, and it's theirs. It's the Japanese, you know. It's like something that they invented. It's their culture, you know, and for them to just share it with us, that's very selfless.
The transfer of this skill into the hands of Americans has not happened without Japan taking notice. In 2006, the Japanese Ministry for Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries reported that approximately 9,000 restaurants in the U.S. claimed to be Japanese, a 250% increase over the previous 10 years.
I don't know. It's keep going. That's amazing. It's a world of food. Huh? It's like the same as pizza, right? That kind of way. You know, whatever you go to maybe you go to Mexico, they have their own Mexico style sushi. You know, or you go to Brazil, maybe they're doing for a different way to making sushi.
This new global nature of sushi is reflected in the fishing industry that serves as its backbone. The international tuna trade alone is a multi-billion-dollar business. Located in Tokyo, the Tsukiji fish market is the largest in the world. Some 2,000 tons of seafood pass through the market every day, worth an estimated $20 million. A record was set in 2001 when a single fish was bought at auction for more than $170,000. Fish sold at the market are plucked from seas across the globe, flown or shipped to Japan, and then dispersed once again to satiate the world's appetite for sushi. Increased popularity does, however, come with its pitfalls. Certain fish populations, especially bluefin tuna, have been so overfished that the World Wildlife Fund now says that the species is in grave danger of extinction. Another issue, says Segura, is that there aren't enough sushi chefs to go around.
Of course, so many restaurants, they're contacting us, so I can send to anywhere they want it. You know, we got lots of clientele. So I think it's about, 100% they can get job easy. Well, so many restaurants are open, but it's a really shortage for the sushi chef. And recently, so many Americans open, American or Koreans or whatever, so non-Japanese people start to open the restaurant, sushi restaurant.
Segura's observation is backed by the government of Japan's report that just 10% of Japanese restaurants off the mainland are operated by Japanese owners. As the consumers of sushi became more diverse, so did its chefs, a trend that Segura saw firsthand. That experience, he says, helped him realize the importance of preserving the traditional ways of sushi.
It's most of the hardest things is I have to teach for the Japanese cultures. Culture is more important for the technique or skill-wise?
Some people, I want to get the technique. That's the only technique. So I don't want to get to some history and Japanese like a language. We don't need it. No. Have to know that always. I talk, try and try. 3 months, time goes by. Only 3 months. In Japan, sushi chef more than 10 years. So I try every day.
With just 3 months to cover both food knowledge and preparation skills, it may seem a tall order for Jimbo Sensei to also impart the traditional Japanese values that he and Toshi learned in their homeland.
To me, you're not just putting like a piece of fish and rice and pushing it together. You're actually forming it, putting a little bit of yourself into it, and try to present it in an edible way. Something that Jimbo Sensei was telling me when I first started here at school was a lot of it, comes from your heart. It comes from your soul. So it's like, okay, are you just gonna wake up, come to class, chop up some fish or chop up some vegetables, put some fish and rice together and then leave? And it's like, you can do that. That's perfectly fine. It's really about putting yourself into it, putting, your heart and soul, and every little bit that you do is a part of you that you're giving back.
I know that comes first. Nice.
From the oceans of Japan to the farms of California, we bring you new trends toward buying locally grown produce. Now that's food for thought.
Which is better, the Fuji or the Gala?
Organic Fuji apple is more better. The more crunchy and juicy.
This might look like a typical trip to the farmer's market, but it's actually something more. Every time Joanne Poirot puts an apple in her bag, she's choosing more than a piece of fruit. She's making a choice that can save or hurt our environment.
Have a nice week.
You too.
This is a story about what we buy and why it matters. The food we eat has a price tag, and the colorful winter fruit displays that drive up our grocery bills can cost the environment too. Every time we buy out-of-season foods that travel by plane, train, or truck before landing on grocery store shelves, we're contributing to a process that pumps environmental toxins into our air. Which is why people like CL Jew, a writer and graduate student that authors the Emerald City blog for the LA Times, says it's where the food is from, not what it is, that's your most important choice.
So for example, if we can get tomatoes here, which we can, we should buy local tomatoes instead of, shipping tomatoes all over the place. The country will export as much asparagus or something as they're importing, which really makes no sense.
According to the Natural Resources Defense Council, the top 6 food imports in the state of California are grapes, oranges, wine, garlic, rice, and tomatoes, all things that can be grown and produced right here. So for people in the local foods movement, cooking dinner is as much about ecology as nutrition. These environmental activists, or locavores as they're sometimes called, try to buy only foods raised near where they live.
A 100-mile diet, defined loosely, meaning eating more locally.
The idea for the 100-mile diet came from 2 Canadian book authors who found out that the average meal travels more than 1,500 miles before reaching your plate. They decided that for 1 year, they would only eat foods grown within 100 miles of their home in Vancouver, a strategy that CL uses here in Southern California.
It reduces the amount of fossil fuels that is used to deliver your food to the doorstep. So instead of having tomatoes that have been shipped for thousands of miles, you have something that came from your neighbor's backyard.
Whether your food arrives by airplane or ocean liner, the independent research group World Watch Institute estimates that an imported meal uses up to 17 times more petroleum than one produced locally. And the NRDC says that in the state of California alone, 250,000 tons of global warming gases are released each year by importing food products. The same amount of pollution produced by 40,000 cars or 2 power plants. And the smog that hangs over Los Angeles, importing food affects that too, as many smog-forming chemicals were released bringing food into California's harbors and airports as 263 power plants or 1.5 million cars. While some locavores and 100-mile devotees take up the cause after reading the book, most, like Ciel, say their commitment to local foods grew more organically.
The first thing I did was widen the 100-mile diet to California. And then the other thing I did was to make it gradual. I started with fruits and vegetables and then sort of tried to add one more thing as I went on.
As Ciel finds resources, she adds them to her blogs at the LA Times and Green LA Girl, which have both become clearinghouses for other Angelenos trying to eat locally.
The 100-mile idea goes far beyond just a one-day event.
Poirot first started buying organics after the birth of her second child, but she quickly realized that an organic sticker might protect your health, but not the earth. So Poirot started incorporating more locally raised produce in her family's diet by visiting the outdoor market down the street from her house. At first, her son was sad to see the frozen chicken nuggets go, but Poirot says there are so many delectable foods available near Los Angeles that eating within 100 miles is a decision her family supported.
100 miles takes us everywhere from San Diego, and it includes far beyond Santa Barbara.
Neighborhood farmers markets might be the easiest place to start finding locally raised foods.
It is sort of like a scene, and you get to see all these people and see all these pretty fruits and vegetables. Doing that on a regular basis will automatically get people to start thinking a little bit more about where their food comes from. Going to a farmer's market and buying directly from the farmer, of course, encourages more community than going to the grocery store once a week and interacting only with the checkout counter person.
Even if there isn't a farmer's market nearby, it is still possible to buy locally. Many of the larger grocery chains have started labeling their produce with its source and offering more fruits and vegetables raised nearby. And Jeff Biddle, the produce buyer for the Whole Foods stores in the Southwest, makes sure that these local items are literally the first thing a customer sees.
We try to highlight whatever is local, so we'll have the citrus at the front of the department this time of the year because it is a local item, and so we want customers to see the local product.
And even though Whole Foods carries far-away fruits and vegetables when they're out of season, Biddle says even in the middle of winter, it is possible for Angelenos to eat locally.
This is a greenhouse yellow tomato, and it's a good example how even though it's surrounded by Mexican tomatoes, if you look really closely and try really hard, sometimes you can find California product in between.
No matter what the season, certain favorite foods are unavailable even in Southern California. And locavores say it is these items that should be the exceptions in your diet.
The reason we should have international trade is because there are things we can't get here. It's more just making sure that the things you can get from close by, you do.
I do the best I can with every meal. And as we go forward in time over the years, I'm able to see more and more ingredients are locally based that are going into my everyday meals. You look at our global warming situation and how transportation is a huge issue, then how do we justify getting food from around the world when we have such a tremendous variety of food from right here locally?
Finally, we've saved our weirdest story for last. In most parts of the world, these little creatures are considered food, but maybe not for Americans. See if you'd be willing to try a bite.
You get them frozen. Philemon, my chef here, he stuffs them with ground chicken with garlic and onion and so forth. This is Philemon. And then they're deep fried and served, I think, also, you serve them here? Oh, that's with the sea worms. Okay, here, can you put them here? Okay, so anyway, he's going to cook them now for your viewing audience. He's putting a little cornstarch on them so they get a nice little crust.
Cooking bugs is not a health code violation. It's what's for dinner.
Here they go for their last swim.
Here at the Pan-Asian restaurant Typhoon at the Santa Monica Airport, the authentic taste of Eastern cultures is brought to the American palate. That includes sea worms, crickets, scorpions, and water bugs.
they don't chew up very well. They're pretty tough, the wings. So we have to tell them to pull those off before they eat them. But you eat the head, you eat the legs, you eat the body.
But they look like... I don't know, let me look at it for a while.
You may cringe or run for the pesticide, but you would be among the minority. American bug chef David George Gordon says entomophagy, or the practice of eating insects, takes place everywhere except Europe and the United States, and it goes beyond just bugs on your plate.
We call this the Typhoon Chew, which is a concoction of various Chinese herbs. And there's caterpillars in there, deer antlers, all legal. It's good for night vision.
Vidor got most of these recipes on his trips through Asia.
It's very, very common in non-American cultures to eat insects because they're very available everywhere. You can find them. Easy to cook, you know, a little bit of oil, season them up. And it's a plentiful food source.
Employees at the insect zoo at the Los Angeles Natural History Museum try to allay those fears we have of creepy crawly things.
It's really fun to do it and then take it to parties and then watch people eat them. Because in the States, we have a huge phobia against things we don't understand. Insects are just a massive part of that phobia.
Whether people know it or not, you're eating about 3 pounds a year. It's in all of our foods anyway. A lot of times it's very processed in, so you can't quite tell it's there.
Before you panic, you should hear the nutrition facts.
In that little bite-sized packet, you're getting far more protein per unit. You're also getting more vitamins. You can get about as much basic vitamins that you need from either eating a side of beef or a handful of bees.
And the recipes abound. Sea worms on lettuce.
White sea worms are my favorite. They are sort of a briny flavor and served with raw garlic and chili.
Water bugs from Thailand.
But I must say the head is sort of, the head and the body is sort of earthy, have an earthy flavor, but I suppose it's an acquired taste.
Ants from Manchuria.
Have sort of a peppery, cedary, citrusy flavor. They're used mostly as a spice.
Or home-cooked crickets.
Get them nice and warm, coated. When they start to turn crispy, take them off the fire, dry them on a paper towel, and then toss them in some cinnamon sugar, and just it's a good movie snack.
So even if these images are bugging you, experts would say, give it a shot.
Until you try it, don't knock it. It's not bad. You could be eating, stir-fried crickets, and you won't even know. It's actually rather cool.
That's it for this edition of Impact. I'm Marissa Monroy. Now let's take a look at some of our upcoming stories.
Wushu is a Chinese martial art. Wu literally means military, Shu means art. Wushu is the art of war, and it has been in existence in Chinese history for about 3,500 years.
It's a feeling that's hard to explain to anybody who don't skate. It's just a feeling of its own. It's something about the movement, the gliding, the smoothness of it.